Thank you so much to everyone for joining this fireside chat. I even have this like a candle lit up next to my laptop to emulate the fire. But today we're going to be talking about how we can create the young programmers of tomorrow, specifically talking about how we can best educate kids in this field, but also ensure that we have strong, I think we lost Linda.
Sure,
but also ensure that, we have strong like female representation in this sector. Okay, I'll just wait for Linda to join again.
She didn't have the audio.
Yes. We're all back. Great. Okay, then I think we can get started. So I'll just start with an intro from my end. So I'm Paula, and I'm calling in from Stockholm, and I'm one of the co-founders and the lead developer at imagiLabs, which is a startup that is building tools to equip and empower girls to create and play with code. And Linda and Caroline, if you can go as well with your intros.
Linda, you want to start? Or
you go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Caroline. I'm the CEO and founder of 15 Tech. I'm a key player in gender equality space since years. Before launching 15 Tech, I will give you a little bit more about what we are doing on this platform. I was aiding an incubator for female entrepreneurs, one of the first in Europe, largest one, called Wheeler. It was like 500 female entrepreneurs per year in this program. So that was an amazing experience. And then we have decided to really go to break the systemic inequality in the HR space, especially in tech. And so I built a platform called 15 Tech, and we are matching women in tech with inclusive computing only. Why? Because 1 in 2 women today is leaving tech after age of 35 due to discrimination. So we need to stop that. If we are not doing that, we'll never have women joining education program for women. We need to have role models such as Paula or Linda, and we need to change. So that's my message, and that's why I'm here today. I'm really happy to be with you, and thanks, Paula, for the invitation.
Beautiful. Yeah, my name is Linda. I'm a children's book author and illustrator who writes about computer science and growing up in a world full of technology. But before that, I've worked with technology through a non-profit that I started, and I've also worked at a product and startup company teaching people how to code. And currently, I'm making the world's first playground, which is a computer where you can crawl inside and learn about the different abstractions of a computer through physical play. So kind of, exploring the intersection of creativity and computing through many different worlds.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for your intros. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be covering, 2 topics under this umbrella today. So first we have the tech industry and the current lack of female representation and what we can do to address that. And then we'll also be talking about how kids interact with technology and how to best educate them and teach them about computer science. So perhaps we can start with the role of women in tech, the role that they've played or we've played, and also about some reasons for the current lack of women in tech. So I guess it's no secret that over the past few decades, the tech industry and computer science have been dominated by men. This is despite a lot of the early pioneers in the field actually being women. And I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on why you think this is. And perhaps Caroline, I know you have experience with this and you're a strong advocate for equal representation in tech. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Let's start with data, I think it's like no stereotypes, no, it's only data. In the 70s, we, in fact, women were in tech. So you know that we were the pioneer from Grace Hopper, Ada Lovelace, and much more, the ENIAC girl. So a lot, the first big computer was girl, in fact. And so they were 40% of the program in computer science. So why? What happened to have only 15% in 84? The personal computer was created and the first marketing and advertising from Apple with the guy geeking in the kitchen, the woman doing the cooking, like baking. And that was the first picture of the geek culture. So that was the first idea. And then this personal computer was offered, and thanks to advertising, more to the little boys than the little girl. And every girl was saying at the university when they did like computer science, we were dreaming to have this computer, but that was not that was for my little brother, not me. And so that's the fact. And so we disappear suddenly. And another fact I think important, talking about data. So this is the Silicon Valley creating this situation, and the soft power came everywhere in Finland, in Sweden, in Paris, where I'm based. It's everywhere like that. Even in Latvia, where they don't know what it is inequality, because they had like female presidents, they are super powerful for women. Now they know, because the women are leaving now the programming university. So this is an accidental problem. This is not the situation in Tunisia or Malaysia, where women are the majority in tech, because first, mathematics is everything there, and also that's described, and that's a pity one, that's described as a job for a woman. So you can stay at home and that's clean. Oh my God, that's not the vision of equality that I have, but that's the fact. So in countries where women are not equal, like with men and male counterparts, we have more women in tech. And in Occident, where we are claiming, oh, we are the best, women can do what they want except fundraising, you have no women basically in tech. So that's really a question of marketing, advertising, and we need to change that. And so we need people such as Lu, Paula, and Linda to really create the new world and inspire the new generation. If not, this will be a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on like the sort of geek culture or geek mythology, as I've heard some people refer to it as. And I think, like from a young age, also boys are more likely to have a personal computer, and like parents are more likely to encourage their boys in this direction. And so, with the work that we're doing at imagiLabs, for example, we're trying to provide an entry point to girls at an early age as well. And I know, Linda, as well, with your book, so you have like a female protagonist.
But I wanted to, because Caroline, you started with history. I've been kind of very fascinated by the history of computers and computing, and what a kind of multidisciplinary field that is. And I knew all of the stories thanks to the kind of like rewriting of past that we've had about Grace Hopper and the ENIAC girls and so forth. And every time I would be asked in an American or like any interview about the history of women in computing, I would repeat the same story, that yes, there are like females who were an active part of forming the computer. And then people would come to me and be like, so what about Finland? We've heard that Finland is quite an equal country. We have a female prime minister and so forth. And then I would be completely silent, because I knew nothing about the female programmers of Finland in the 1960s and the 1970s when the computers first came out. And they are still alive. And last spring I did I wrote this article on the biggest daily of the Finnish system, just pondering about this, like, why is it that we have a very educated workforce? Finland as a country, we went through this period of like amazing growth, and a lot of social structures were put after the Second World War to place, and why there were no Finnish female programmers I knew of. And like one of the reasons for us was definitely the fact that women went to public sector workplaces, so they didn't work in private sector after the wars, because we needed taxation income, and women needed to go to work quickly. And that in my head meant that, it means that all of the progress happened in the private sector. But I was wrong. So what I discovered instead was that actually here in Finland, the computers were used to advance the society as a whole. And we came up with a lot of social innovations, like daycare systems, like social security numbers. And a lot of the women who were programming these systems were women. So I got to interview a few of them, and on the front page of the biggest daily was not the picture of me, it was not the picture of Paula, but it was the picture of an 82-year-old programmer who actually lives nowadays in Stockholm, and who was the first programmer in Finland to touch the very first computer we built. And I literally cried when I got that paper, because it felt that there is this history and this lineage, and there were women who came before me. And maybe the sad thing is that Kaarina Oksanen, that is her name, she herself felt that she didn't do very meaningful or big jobs. It was only now in hindsight that I came to her with my kind of ideas and my narrative that she recognized what her role in the computer revolution was. But I think we have and every country has these stories. We just haven't been looking for them very actively.
Yeah, I agree. I think the narrative has been like very US centric, or that's like most of the books and movies are made about. So that's great that
and also the way we define innovation, because I noticed when I started to ask around for these pioneer programmers, not a lot of them recognize themselves as kind of the Linus Torvalds or like the Bill Gateses of the world, but they had steadily worked together as a team. And isn't that the kind of narrative we want about technology going forward? Not the lone innovator who comes up with a complex algorithm. So maybe I think we've all told before that we need more role models in tech, and I completely agree with that. But I think the shape of the narratives we tell about tech and the stories we tell about, that is also our responsibility to start looking more broadly about what we consider as success and as innovation, not only the individual feats, but more complex narratives.
Definitely. Great. Yeah, now I feel like I need to also go back to Romania and find some role models there. But I think, Romania perhaps like one of the countries that has also had like less of a problem with diversity. And that part, of the world, it seems to be a bit different there. But I think something that I get asked when I talk about like the work that I do towards empowering girls is like, why is it so necessary that more women are involved in tech and computer science? Like, things have been going okay so far. Why do we need more women? And I think it's important to answer this question as well. And personally, from my perspective, I think that if tech is the future, then if we want people to be equally represented in tech, we need to have diversity, not just when it comes to gender, but also like racial backgrounds and so forth. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too.
I think when you're launching your startup, it's all about efficiency. How can you do without 52% of the population when we are talking about gender, and without diversity like existing in our life, like sexual orientation, racial background, so social background, different social background. So you are doing a product. It was an article on Shifted last year from a great VCs from Inventure, and she was talking about male tech. So what we create until now, it's not femtech, it's male tech. So so what we can create now with this 52% of the population who are not involved in tech, 25% of women as a techie, around 10% of female co-founders and not funded, because only 2% of the venture capital fund are going to them. And when you are a Black woman, so it doesn't exist, so 0.5 or something like that. So imagine what we can create. So 5 years ago, it was all about femtech. We're blushing about it, but hey guys, we have periods. That's crazy, just ask your wife, and I don't know, your daughter perhaps. That's life. Don't blush. That's our wealth, and we need our else. We need to be involved, even in wealth. And so that's a problem. And for algorithms, also we have an issue. So they're completely biased. So you can put now, we can't have credit card with Apple if you are a rich one woman. With your poor husband, the money will go to your poor husband and not you. So that's an enormous issue. And when you are looking at your Google system and you have Black friends and it's put gorillas, so that's a big problem that we have now. So we have no choice, in fact. So every school needs to have 50-50, looking at the diverse profile, and don't look at, I don't know, only logical stuff, and just invite everybody to enter in the dance, because that's not a game now. We need to end. It's over. We need more product, more efficiency, more performance. We are losing money, and we are losing opportunity and product design for us.
No, I completely echo those ideas, and I think sometimes I'm a little, because people ask me, so what do you think the kids who grow up with this new like imagiLabs or Hello Ruby or whatnot, like what kind of world they will create? And I think the point is that I don't know, because we've we haven't had those voices be a part of the discussion. And if I was able to tell and kind of predict what kind of a world we'll have, that would like totally sideline the point that we don't know what kind of futures these kids will dream. And one of my favorite, like Pixar says that they turn math into emotion. And I think the turning math into something, whether it's taste, whether it's wine, whether it's a relationship, whether it's femtech, I think that's a useful phrase for thinking about all of the areas where computer science will be able to make a difference. But unless we have the first building block, then the turning magic, the moment when something changes, won't be able to happen.
Yeah, I really love that quote. And then also going back to talking about numbers, like we have a really big gap in the tech industry for programmers. Like I think the number is 1 million in the EU, like 1 million in the US. So there's definitely like a lot of space for people to enter. And I think women could definitely find their place there. Great. So that sort of covers the first part of the discussion, more around women in tech and diversity in tech. And I would
Can I ask a question from both of you at this point?
Yes,
like, Caroline, you've been doing this for longer. Do you ever get like tired of having this discussion? Do you ever feel like we've told the argument so many times?
But that's why I built my own startup. Yeah. So what I'm saying to women, okay, you are a woman in tech, you have the power to choose. Yeah. Don't choose the bad guy. We are here to show you the way. We will have the salary negotiation compensation vote to calculate your gender pay gap. We are matching you with mentors, and we are only indicate you startup or scale up or key account who are working on this topic seriously. And you can, even if you want a job, you want an equal pay guarantee, you can choose the criteria. It will be early next year. You can choose the criteria. You want work-life balance, that not existing in tech. You can choose. So we have the power to choose. Okay, and we will go to the power to code, and I believe that's really a big power now for women to have that. I'm not coding, for example. I'm trying to involve my daughters. They don't want. I'm like, but that's really the opportunity now that we have. And I'm very optimistic. First, because computer is for everybody now, not only girls and boys. They have smartphones, they have everything. Okay, that's built by men, but they have opportunity to go in this world and really to know everything. Everything is open. You can go to free code camp. So that's fantastic. And then we have the power to choose, because every good company are willing to work with women and more minorities. Every client that I have, every scale up, except 20%, are really willing to change. So that's why I want to help next year every company under 15 people, so really small one, in order to create a big impact. Because I'm meeting like every day 3 male co-founder, and they don't know how to do it. Now they have like 6 employees, only 1 woman, and they know that they are in trouble and they have to move, but they don't know how to do it. So we need to work and offer solution early, so with the sourcing, but also we are thinking to develop like a CRM for ATS, so applicant tracking system, in order to spot the bias and give actionable advice. So that's the vision that we have. And so we can invent that. And Paula is inventing something for kids. You are creating books. So I do not believe, I know that the most important thing, and I want to hire more women in VC, help to hire more women in VC, because that's the pain. We are reproducing every day the same, because there is no female co-founder. There is no diverse profile. And so we need to finish about it. That's so the only pain that we have now, and sorry, I'm seeing that there is a lot of VC, but I really do like you. That's not a problem. But 91% of men, they can't just imagine the powerful market that we have in diversity and inclusion tech solution, because it's not an opportunity, but that's a big opportunity. That's giant. And we know that. So we will do it. And then we will create our own fund.
Yes, we say as well that once, 10 years from now, imagiLabs will create a fund and will invest in the company started by the girls who started coding.
I can't wait to see that, like a little army of
we create together.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, and in terms of your question about being tired, I feel like no, like I feel like I live in a bit of a bubble in Sweden where everyone seems to understand the problem. So I'm like trying to go out of my way to engage with people who like might not see the problem or understand it, and try to work more towards answering their questions around this. And then I guess maybe Linda to talk more about sort of the early stage of interacting with technology and learning about technology. So I think you mentioned before this call started that you were working on a playground that teaches kids about computers. And I love finding out more about, like sort of non-conventional ways to learn about computer science. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Sure. So it started from kind of the pandemic time when public spaces all of a sudden returned to our consciousness in a completely new way, and realizing that in Finland we have this amazing system around public spaces or playgrounds where, first of all, in the summertime you get free food from there, you have university trained early childhood educators, and that a playground can be an entire platform, a non-commercial platform and a space for people to hang out, but it can also be educational. And for many years I've had this, I think it was 2016, I wrote the second Ruby book where Ruby falls inside of a computer, and it's like an Alice in Wonderland story. So I started to tell that one day I'll make an exhibition where you crawl inside of a computer and you learn through the lowest level of electricity to logic gates to hardware to software, how they work. And now it's becoming a reality. So the first one is going to be opened in Helsinki in 2023, and it's been so educational for me to work with public stakeholders, with city officials, with nearby stakeholders like schools and so forth, because having this background in kind of ed tech, it often feels like we are more involved in the product, and the product is important, but we like forsake the process part of it, and like just realizing how much like city planning and all of these things like influence our world, and the time, like when you invest in a playground, it's several $1 million, and it's 20 years the lifespan or like the depreciation for a project like this. So it's really long term that you need to be building, and I find all of that really exciting right now.
That's really amazing, and I see too that kids really resonate with things that they can touch and like sort of feel, and things that are not their screens. So
I think so much of our childhood is spent like learning through our fingertips and like the tip of our tongue, and the abstract ideas of computer science as well as the way we look at the world through the screens is quite kind of narrowing our perspective, and that's what you guys do so well also, that the little charm bracelet is like it's something you can touch. Exactly. Yes. So gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly. And we see that this is really the aha moment where they see that something they coded is now on the display. They really enjoy that, and it's very motivating. Yeah, but I guess touching more on this topic of kids using screens, I guess we consider kids to be digital natives, but how do we ensure that they're not just sort of consuming technology, but also like meaningfully engaging and creating technology?
Caroline, you wanna?
I have two girls, so they were more consumer, but I tried to use Scratch, that kind of system, and now I would like to go to the no code, not just to, because they can really try to build an app, because my little girl asked me 2 years ago, I really want to build an app to sell something for poor people. I say, okay, it's existing, but you can try, and so we can do something perhaps together. I'm not coding, so that's quite hard to do it myself, so let's go perhaps to no code, and then you can really understand how it works, because no code, you need to have a reflection in order to, it's not like that.
You're building.
And so perhaps it's something that everybody can do, and just inspire them. And I think really Paula, this tool, that's not in French, so I'm waiting.
Yes, we've gotten this feedback.
Yeah. So but I have the app. I'm ready to involve my daughters. They love gaming, so I think you know that there is no female in gaming, but there is 50% of female gamer, and they are doing that all the day, like gaming. So I think with Paula, what you have invented is really a great idea, because they're involved. that's really fun. They can do it on app and on mother's phone, so that's the best. And so that's great. So really, that kind of thing is really, I think, efficient. And adding that to peer mentoring with people having like 3 or 6 years only, not like the already lead developers like that. I think it's more inspiring to have someone in coding at, I don't know, high school, showing you what she can do with that. And that's my vision of mentoring and peer-to-peer learning. We have to have plus 6 minus 6 years of difference, and I think it's really inspiring.
I think there's this interesting conversation where there's a lot of parents who are very, very, and I like that you both get this a lot, where they say my kid needs to learn Python and JavaScript before the age of 6 in order to succeed in the world. And I think it's such a shame that parents get so pressured about all of these things. And somehow this morning I started to really think that one of the best things I've done is started to spend a lot of time with teachers and educational systems. And somehow the idea that what if we started to talk about teachers in the same way as we talk about founders, that we invest in our founders and we invest in individuals, not ideas necessarily. And one 10x teacher can reach so many, the same way we talk about founding engineers, because in some ways the pressure that parents are feeling creates, not that it creates inequality. I think it's important that parents invest in their children, but one of the most equitable ways to spread knowledge is through educational systems. And in Finland, for instance, our praised educational system is nothing else than teachers who are respected and valued and educated and invested in. And it seems kind of, again, self-evident to be saying that we need great teachers, but we do need them. And there's clear ways we could be investing in them, both in monetary terms as in kind of more spiritually or philosophically recognizing their worth.
Yeah, and when it comes to teachers, so we've partnered with some educational institutions, and we see that in that case, it's not just about teaching kids to code, but also teaching teachers to code, and giving them the confidence that they can actually instruct children with these skills.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, we only have 1 minute left, and I wanted, sort of in the last few minutes, to ask you if there are any resources you would like to share so that the audience can continue sort of engaging with this topic and staying informed.
I shared the book of Claire L. Evans, so because this is the story of the pioneer, so really US-centric, but at the meantime, US were more funded with tech initially. So about coding, the first community was created by a woman in hypertext language in New York. It was about culture, and she had a rule: 40% of women at least. So she was a pioneer in many ways. That was so it's a really interesting book, and I believe that book or that history need to be in every school. The programming school, you need to start by that. So you will never say again that women can't code. And perhaps, Linda, you have more books to share with us. Yours, of course, because they are fantastic. But
I think maybe one thread that we've been talking a lot about is understanding history, and tech in the modern day. It seems to be very much focused on people who are either solving immediate problems happening in the now or in the very far future. And I think people who have an appreciation and understanding to the history of how things came to be, they maybe have more nuanced way of thinking about the world. So maybe my recommendation is reading old books about technology, because then we start to recognize what is the stuff that really, because everything returns and everything is circular. So many of the ideas in current machine learning and AI stuff come from the 60s or 70s. So what are those things that kind of transcend time? And on a more practical level, I think all of the mentions, CS Ed Week is happening next week. So Computer Science Education Week, it's a huge effort for a lot of teachers and schools around the world. And there's many nonprofits and for-profit companies that are creating materials that are very accessible and great. So if you look on Twitter or elsewhere with the hashtag CS Ed Week, you'll be able to find a lot of a lot of materials. There's apparently a request form. Can you please write down the name of the book in the chat, Carolina?
Yeah,
There's
maybe
a future reader for that.
No. I put the chat. Let me share again. It was a little bit before, and the name is here. The book, best book. Claire L. Evans.
Claire L. Evans.
Yeah, I share it now. It's Broadband.
Perfect.
The untold story of the woman who made internet.
Yeah, and speaking of old books, there's Mothers and Daughters of Invention, which was published in the 80s, which I thought was a really interesting overview of.
Ellen Allman, she's like a legendary Silicon Valley programmer, but also such a literary voice. And I love Ellen's writing. She has, I can't remember the name of the books that she's wrote, but she's at least 2 essay collections that are phenomenally good.
Exactly. And she's written some fiction about coding as well, which I find really fun too. Yeah, it's Close to the Machine.
Close to the Machine,
and, Yes, and By Blood as well. Great. And I personally recommend also Linda's blog. I've been following it too, and I think that's a really great resource as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that's, I don't want to keep our attendees in here for too long over time. But
they need to zoom into new meetings or like this whole hyper existence.
But we will be, or I will be at least joining this metaverse as well, which is linked in the chat. And I'm really honored that I got to speak with the 2 of you today. Thank you so much for joining.
Wonderful.
And have a great rest of your day.
I can join the metaverse, but I will try.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not like Meta. It's like I'm kind of afraid of Meta. It's only built by guys. I'm like,
but it looks like kids at least are very comfortable with this.
Okay, so that's okay. So let's try to join the metaverse. So.
Yes, but thank you so much, and have a great rest of your conference.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.